So guys, today's workshop, starting out by framing up the context, right? What are we here to learn today? And what I want to impart to you is a system that I really believe can enable you to free up 30 hours a week to work on your business by hiring a self-managing team of A players. And I believe, guys, that the outcome of doing this is it will enable you to escape what we call the self-employment trap here and regain your time freedom. And so I want to quickly break down, you might have heard me teach on this before, but I want to break down what I mean by the self-employment trap, because this is how you know that your business is running you instead of you running your business. And it's probably due to the lack of a team you can trust. A lot of owners we talk with say they feel like they're stuck in the weeds fulfilling all the time, always feeling behind and out of time. Another way this feels is maybe you're playing chief everything officer by day, juggling too many responsibilities yourself, but you're playing professional firefighter by night, fixing problems and having to take over for your team. And this leaves you feeling unable to assemble a team you can trust, right? Turning you into a stressed out middle manager. And of course, doing that over a period of time leads to burning the candle at both ends, which can, have an effect on your health, lead to some burnout, and maybe even make your significant other a bit bitter, right? And I know this for a fact, guys, because I lived this myself. I felt like my business became this trap. And I was like, where was Admiral Akbar when we needed him? I wish I would have foreseen kind of the trap I created for myself where I was always having to work. And this really, again, guys, my passion for this comes out of my story because I lived this myself. If you haven't heard my story, my business, my service-based business almost killed me. In fact, I was running 2 service-based businesses at the time. And I remember the day I walked into my house, avoiding my wife, who was my first year of marriage, and escaped into our, kind of spare room and curled up in the fetal position in the corner and literally said, why did I think I could do this? The problem, guys, was I had built a business that was hustle-based versus strategic. And I was hiring from desperation instead of vision. And the business lived all in my head instead of on paper. And so my revelation that day, guys, that I really want to impart to some of you is that what got me here would not get me there. Meaning what got me to this place of kind of running a business where I was, spinning all the wheels and we were somewhat successful. We were making money, but I didn't have any time freedom and the business was just so dependent on me, right? What got me here would not get me there. And I determined that day that I was going to stop being an entrepreneur and become a leader and CEO who could empower others so I could win back my time freedom. And again, since then, I really feel like I've been on a mission to do exactly that. I've been able to do that within the companies that I've scaled and grown. I've also been able to consult with some billion-dollar organizations and co-founded, of course, Unleash CEO, our consulting and staffing company that helps has now helped scores of businesses to scale and for the business owner to get back some of their time freedom, which is really our mission, right? We want to help impact-driven business owners install the systems and team they need to regain time freedom and scale past 7 figures healthy. All that said, guys, the big vision for us is to actually unleash 10,000 impact-driven CEOs who are leading 7-figure healthy companies and who are generously giving $100 million annually. So why am I doing this today? I'm doing this because I'm so passionate about seeing that vision happen, but we can't lead healthy companies without healthy teams, and healthy teams is what drives the profitability to be able to make an impact in the world. So this is for you. Today is for you if you are a serious service-based business owner doing at least 10K plus per month in revenue, or maybe you've done 100K in the past. You primarily sell a service versus a product. It's not quite as important when you talk about hiring, but it does make a difference in how much weight it alleviates for the owner. And you need to be driven to make an impact in the world. And so I would encourage you today that I think if you're here, this fits you, but you want to go from working in your business to working on it. And you're looking to avoid wasting time and money on trial and error and scaling faster by partnering with the right people and process. And in fact, at the end of today, I will make you an offer at the end of this workshop to do exactly that. However, you have no obligation to take us up on that offer unless you truly feel like what I've shared with you could transform your business and life. And working with our team is simply going to accelerate that process for you and take all the heavy lifting off your shoulders. So here's what you're going to learn today, right? This is really our core process. We call it the Unleash CEO system. And it's our proven 3-step process to go from feeling stuck in the self-employment trap to being the time-free CEO of a self-managing 7-figure business. So all that being said, guys, I want to outline for you to do today where we're going. And the different elements that are at play today are like a healthy tree. It's kind of like having a healthy tree. A healthy tree has three parts, right? You have the root, you have the trunk, and you have the branches. And when we think about that outcome we want of a self-managing team, we have to start at the root. And in this case, the root is you as the CEO having a strategic plan, okay? From there, the trunk is kind of the conduit. How do we find these self-managing A players? And that's where we'll talk about what we call our A player hiring funnel. And last but not least, this leads to the fruit, the branches of what we ultimately want, which we call our self-managing team systems, how you set that team up to be self-managing so you get back your time freedom. Okay. So again, this is what we're going to talk about today, and I'm so excited to share it with you guys. So without any further ado, let's dive into number one, CEO strategic plan. Now, here's what I've learned after working with hundreds of CEOs now to help them get strategic about how to scale their business and grow their team. Is you cannot lead a team towards an unclear destination with a complex strategy that lives in your head. It doesn't work. You have to have a strategic plan. And my friend, your number one role as the CEO is to create clarity so that others can execute effectively. And so in order to do this, you're going to need to create this strategic plan. And the best thing about this, guys, is when you do this, it actually sets you free and it sets your people up to win without constantly needing you. A common myth here, guys, that I talk to owners is they kind of think that there's always a marketing problem in their business. In other words, man, if we could just make more money, bring on more clients, then we could afford to pay the right people we need, or maybe we could incentivize our employees more. So it naturally just kind of turns their attention more to marketing and driving growth. And this is just not the case, guys. This is not typically the issue when we come into a business. Typically, we have a strategy problem, not a marketing problem. And as a result, we need to get that CEO strategic plan clear so we can align your energy and your team's energy around the right things. Okay. And the way I like to illustrate this is using the example of a fire. And some of you have heard me tell this story before, but I remember one day I went out to make a fire. And I got so frustrated because I could not get this fire to light. I mean, it was just driving me nuts. My wife comes up and she walks up to the logs and, she rearranges a few things. She kind of, puts the logs together in a certain order and structure. And then she, adds a little bit of kindling differently. And then she strikes a match and it just takes off. And I'm so mad. I'm like, I'm the man of this household. I can't believe my wife just absolutely destroyed me at making a fire. But what I learned from that experience, when I asked her in humility, I was like, hey, what did you do? And, she really talked about how there was a strategy and a structure to how she set the wood up and how she set the kindling up that allowed the blaze to catch and allowed the fire to grow. And actually, the way I was doing it before was wrong. I was just stacking too much wood on top of each other in a way where the air couldn't get underneath of it and the fire couldn't catch. And this is so true in many of our businesses. Some of us are just trying to throw more wood on the fire, more marketing, more advertising, more clients, more deals, whatever it is. And because there's not a clear structure and a clear strategy to things, it doesn't allow air to come in and the fire can never reach its full potential. Maybe it won't even catch at all. And so this is the power of having a strategic plan and a structure that really allows you to kind of get wind under your sails and allows the fire to scale and grow. And then once that fire catches and the structure's in place, you can keep piling more wood on and know that the fire will keep growing, right? So that is the idea, guys, behind a CEO strategic plan. So what is involved in a CEO strategic plan? Well, number one, if you're taking notes, the first thing you need to have down on paper within your CEO strategic plan is what we call a weaponized vision. Weaponized vision. And the reality, guys, is I work with a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners, and most of them actually have too much vision. The problem is it's unfocused, okay? It's unfocused. They have lots of ideas, lots of plans, but nothing that they can clearly align themselves and their team around. And making something simpler actually magnifies its power, y'all. Uranium isn't even dangerous until it's distilled. And this is the idea of weaponization. We have to actually take all the entrepreneurial ideas for growth swimming around in your head and focus them down in a powerful way. Al Ries, in his famous book, Focus, uses the analogy. He says, The sun puts off billions of kilowatts of energy every single day. And the worst thing that happens is somebody gets a sunburn. But a laser focuses a few kilowatts of energy in a singular direction, and it can cut through rock. And that is the power of focus and weaponization of your vision. Because when you are clear about who you are here, your team identity, what habits accompany the high performing culture you want to build, and that, stem from that identity. What is your BHAG, as Jim Collins calls it, your big, hairy, audacious goal you're all striving towards together? And you have a clear picture of what your business looks like 3 years from now. When you know those 4 things, it provides so much context to what you do today. It becomes a filtering and guiding mechanism for what to ignore and what to focus on. And that is the power of a weaponized vision. And when you weaponize your vision down to a place where you can communicate it succinctly and powerfully, it has the ability to pierce the hearts of clients and your team and create motivation and loyalty. There's a reason why companies like Apple have gotten such loyalty from their clients and their team members. And it's not just because they make great computers. Simon Sinek, I love, he has this amazing book called Start With Why. And he talks about how everybody else markets about what they do and how they do it. But Apple markets why they do what they do. Okay. And that's why everybody resonates with them, is because it's so rich with culture and vision, and people resonate with that at such a deep level. So this is the power of having a weaponized vision, guys. The second thing that you're going to need to have within your CEO strategic plan is what we call a scalable business model. Scalable business model. And most business owners, if they're honest with themselves, they're not objective about the scalability of their business. As Joe Polish famously said, you can't read the label from inside the jar, okay? So a lot of business owners tell me that they have a scalable model, but when we look at it, it's very inefficient and very dependent on them. And it's not simple, it's complex. They've got too many offers, too many different ways they're positioning themselves, too many different types of people they're trying to serve. And you really can't scale that until you have a massive team, which you don't currently in most cases. So with that said, you have to make things simpler if you want to scale. And in order to empower even A players are not empowered in an environment of complexity and unclarity. They need simplicity and clarity. And that's what we have to create for them within the CEO strategic plan. So a great question to ask is, man, how would the business scale without me at the center? Sort of putting on a franchise mindset and going, okay, what would the business look like if I totally removed myself from the day-to-day? How would it work? How would it function? What would the P&L look like if I actually had to pay the right people to do the things I'm currently doing? And then really building your business model off of that versus kind of how you've been, a lot of times as entrepreneurs, we've been duct taping it so far, okay? And again, this leads to eliminating complexity and dealing with root cause issues, okay? That is the second part. The third part of the CEO strategic plan, guys, is a 90-day growth plan. And this is key because most business owners tell me that, well, I just can't afford to make the A-player hires I want right now. Or, man, I don't have time to focus on, hiring that person because it's so busy right now. Even though they know they need it, they make excuses for why they can't do it. And this is why having a 90-day growth plan is so key, because it allows you to define what you want and then execute on that instead of executing in line with your excuses, okay? The reality is, if you need a hire in your business, if you make a great 90-day growth plan, you can figure out how to fund that hire. We've seen this over and over with clients where they come into our process, anticipating that, man, it's going to be a long time before I can hire that person. And I just need you guys to help me with this other stuff first. And then maybe, 90 days, maybe 180 days from now. And we come in and we tweak a few things. We get them running on a 90-day growth plan with the team they do have. And suddenly we've created the abundance to be able to confidently hire because they have their cash needs taken care of. And we have a, perfect hiring formula you guys can kind of use to determine this that I'll share later. I think it's in the resource list. But I would really encourage you guys to be thinking about how to drive growth, right? So that you can accomplish what you want and give the business what it needs. Not what you determine is doable, but what does the business need? And then figure out how to execute that within a 90-day cycle, okay? And oftentimes with clients, we end up hitting this simply by tapping into their existing client base and sales pipeline. Sometimes it's that simple to fund the growth and the hiring that they often need to do. So guys, that is number one of this workshop, right? The CEO strategic plan. And I want to give this kind of more context and color for you guys by sharing a story with you that really illustrates what this looks like in real life. My client, Luke, when he came to us, he couldn't figure out why he kept hitting the same growth ceiling, even though he had tried changing everything. And a CEO strategic plan, the exact process I just shared with you, allowed him to add $20K a month in profit, use that to hire an A-player ops manager, and take his first phone-free vacation, right? This was what I just shared with you. That one piece alone actually made this possible for Luke. And now I remember talking with him on the phone, and he was in California with his beautiful bride at the time. And he was like, man, this is the first time that I haven't checked my phone in a week. And because I know everything is being handled on the home front by my self-managing team. And that is a huge win. And, he just mentioned how that working with us working on his strategic CEO plan brought levels of clarity to his vision and strategy he didn't even know were possible. And so again, guys, just a great illustration of the power of a CEO strategic plan. So hopefully you guys are taking great notes, and hopefully that first section was super helpful. And we're, without further ado, going to move right into number two. So number two, second piece of the A-player hiring system is, as makes sense, the A-player hiring funnel. So now that we've got the strategic plan for the team to execute on, now we need to go find the team we need. Okay, so how do we do that? And this is what we found, guys, is like, you got to be really intentional with this, because the biggest waste of time and money you'll ever endure in business is a bad hire. And some of you know that from painful past experience. But when you have a clear strategic plan and a proven hiring process, attracting and retaining A players, guys, it's just so much easier than it seems. It really is not rocket science once you've tackled, number one that we just talked about. And a common myth here, guys, that I hear from owners, I mentioned this earlier, is that they have an industry problem, meaning, well, we just can't find good people in our industry. They're just not around. And let me just say, my friend, it's just a myth. That's not true. Sure, certain industries have more complexities, but what we really find is most of the time, it's an environment problem, meaning the environment of your business isn't primed to attract and retain A players like we talked about in the first one. And we're probably not sorting and filtering in such a way where our environment and our culture repels the wrong people and attracts the right one, which is what the A player hiring funnel is designed to do. And to illustrate this, guys, A players want to play on a winning team. They want to feel like there's camaraderie, a vision, a companionship. They want to feel like they can win. They want to feel like they can put points on the board. They want to feel like there's clarity from the top, and they have a great head coach in their corner, okay? And that is the environment that A players are drawn to. And so our responsibility is to create that environment and then accurately represent that environment in our A player hiring funnel so it attracts the right people and repels the wrong ones, okay? So 2 hiring pitfalls I commonly see. I just want to address these quickly for owners. Some of you right now are scared as hell to hire, okay? And let's just be real. You've been betrayed in the past. You have some trust issues because your business is your baby. Maybe you feel a little insecure about your environment. You're like, man, it's a mess right now. And if I bring somebody in who's great, they're going to look at all the things I'm doing wrong. Or maybe you're just worried about waste. Will you have enough work to provide for them? Will they actually do the work? And, can you trust them? Maybe in an online environment, you're worried about being able to manage them. Or you're worried about the revenue instability of your business. And, or last but not least, you're just worried that you won't be able to manage them correctly. If this is you, my friend, I have to call you on this and say, if you're going to grow and scale your business, you have to get past this. And having a proven process helps a lot, which is what we're about to walk into. But you also have to realize that, past experience is not future experience. You can't hold your business as a baby forever if you want it to grow. And you've got to get over kind of some of this insecurity. If you hire the right people and you set them up to win, which we'll talk about at the end, they're going to do the job. And if they don't, you'll have easy ways to track, assess, and transition them, okay? So the second pitfall that I see a lot from other owners are what I call shoot from the hip hiring. And this is a Clint Eastwood style where we have so much work, we're so overwhelmed that we end up hiring from desperation instead of vision. And we're attracting kind of whoever's nearby and available versus the A players we truly need. And this really ends up with you supporting the wrong hires out of guilt. You're like, oh, well, I hired them and they're doing an okay job. And you end up with a team that's employed but not empowered, okay? And we've got to get away from this pitfall as well, because it's not going to serve you in growing your company. We've got to stop hiring whoever's walking by and just getting people out of desperation. We need a clear vision and a clear plan and a clear profile of who we need to hire so that we end up with the right person we can empower to be self-managing. So how do we do that? Here's how. First things first. The first thing you need to do is create what we call your 7-figure team structure. This is really critical, guys, and most business owners do not take enough attention to this, okay? Which is asking the question, what would my team need to look like for us to scale to a healthy 7-figure business, not just a 7-figure business, because we have many clients who are already doing 7 figures in revenue, but what would it look like to scale past 7 figures healthy, meaning the team is empowered to be self-managing and I have time freedom to do what I love and am great at as the CEO. That's what we define as healthy. And that's what you need to design your structure around. What would it look like with that outcome in mind, okay? Then once you know what that structure is, it's going to be amazing how quickly clarity will come to you around what your biggest staffing bottleneck is, meaning what area of our business, if it was alleviated, if we really had an A player there and I no longer had to step in and do all the things I'm doing right now, it would free up my time. It would allow me to reinvest that time in driving growth, and it would help our business rise to the next level of excellence. It's amazing how clear that will become. And a lot of times you'll get clarity on not just the next hire, but the next couple. And that is really powerful because then you can start to make a plan to make those hires too. Okay. So the last thing we say along with the A player hiring funnel, right, is the 7-figure team structure is you then need to, within that team structure, crystallize the success profile of an A player in this role. And I'm actually going to go deeper into these next two in just a minute. But the first step is to map out the structure, not the people you need. Structure first, people second. That's the rule. Okay. And this is a great example, guys, of a, kind of basic 7-figure team structure. You have kind of more the visionary CEO at the top. You have somebody who's actually managing and running the day-to-day. A lot of times those are the same people in this stage of business. Sometimes it's not, if you have a great partner. And then you have the 3 major functions of your business, and really understanding what these roles are specific to your business and who's sitting in what seat, okay, is really going to help you crystallize the areas of your business where you do not have the right person in the right seat. And sometimes you have the wrong person in a seat and it's you sitting in that seat, meaning the best thing you could do for your business is replace yourself there, okay? So the thing is, guys, once you've gotten clear on the structure and the success profile of the person in that role, you know what your staffing bottleneck is and you know what the success profile for that person is. And we'll give you a template on that, by the way. The next thing you need to do is set up your A player hiring funnel. Okay. This is something we've specialized and really honed and weaponized with our clients. And this is where essentially you take all the work you did in the CEO strategic plan of weaponizing your vision, crafting clarity, getting clear on what's ahead. And you actually utilize that in your hiring process to position yourself as the employer, the leader, and the team that A players are truly going to want to be a part of. This is way bigger than just posting jobs, guys, because when you post jobs, you get people who are looking for a job, okay? But when you post an opportunity to be part of a winning team with a unique vision, a powerful, clear strategy, and you're positioned as something that is attractive to somebody, the right kind of person, you will attract the right kind of people and repel the wrong ones, which is amazing because you don't want to interview those people anyways. And the other good thing about this is once you have this clarity really down, it becomes much easier to actually go on the recruiting cycle, which we do for clients a lot of times, and actually go after people who maybe aren't looking for a job, but are looking to be a part of something amazing, okay? And that allows you to kind of recruit and go after off-market candidates who really fit that profile and might even be the very best fit, okay? And then guys, the real key that we found is you need to put systems in place to filter candidates. You need systems, an effective way, a checklist to quickly screen resumes, okay? To quickly know who fits the profile and should even get an interview and who doesn't, okay? And we have some systems and some things we can set up. You can get an ATS software. There's a lot of different ways to do this. But the point being, if you want an A-player hiring funnel that's sustainable in your business, this is a very important system to put in place, okay? And this is one of the, I think, the most important things we install in our clients' businesses is not only do we help them make their next A-player hire, doing all the heavy lifting, but we install those systems into their business so they have that as a recurring way to add A-players to their team kind of on demand as their business grows, okay? So once these systems are set up, guys, it's really going to empower you to filter, what sometimes might be 100 to 200 applicants. We regularly find we end up screening that many applicants, that many candidates, and really distill it down to 3 to 5 hyper qualified candidate interviews who you're really going to vet in a much more deeper and intimate interview format. And we'll give you guys some thoughts on what to do with those interviews in the resource list. So from there, guys, you're going to select the best cultural fit and really empower them to be self-managing using the clear strategy you've created and the systems that I'm about to show you in a minute. So that is really the A-player hiring funnel in a nutshell, guys. And I want to crystallize this for you again by sharing one of our client stories. April, our amazing client who owns an incredible construction company, came to us, as I just said, scared as hell to hire, okay? And she didn't know if her business would grow enough to support people if she did. I mean, that was really a big concern for her. But A-player hiring actually allowed April to more than double her revenue. She added $640K to her revenue in 90 days, all because of 2 key hires we made. 2 key hires in the business unlocked massive growth potential because she, as the CEO, was able to turn her team's attention to the things that would drive growth, okay? And April put it this way, right? Having this A-player that we would have never been able to find without Unleashed makes me so excited for the future. The weight of all the tasks I was doing before, I now have someone doing it I can trust. Within the next 12 months, we'll easily double our revenue. And they're on track to maybe 2.5 to 3 times the revenue, which is pretty incredible. Okay, guys, we are 2/3 of the way through. And now I want to take you into the final piece today, which we call self-managing team systems. So we have the clear strategic plan. We now have the A-player coming in hot off of that hiring funnel. Now, as we are on a timeline to hire that person, we need to quickly turn our attention to putting the systems in place that will empower them to hit the ground running and be self-managing. So how do we do this? Well, the big thing, guys, I want to emphasize here is if you don't have these systems in place, your team will never be able to self-manage, and they'll always pull you back into the weeds and prevent you from truly working on your business. So we have to replace you as the driver for actions and decisions with systems. That is the key. And if we want our team to act like owners instead of helpers, guys, we need a leadership ecosystem. We need a way for them to own accountability and responsibility and solve problems instead of just taking tasks, okay? A common myth I see here, guys, is a lot of owners tend to think they're like, well, I just don't have my SOPs built out. We have an SOP problem. And that's just not true a lot of times. The problem is more holistic. It's an operating system problem. You can have all the documents on paper you want, but if you don't have an operating system in which people can self-manage, they're really not going to, no matter how much you document. And the great example here is the famous tire, right, rolling down the road. If you are that center spindle of the tire, everything will always be dependent on you. And we have to replace you there with systems, okay? So I found, guys, over time that there really is a cycle to setting A-players up to be self-managing. And it's really as follows. We have onboarding, then measuring, meeting, and then optimizing. Onboarding, measuring, meeting, and optimizing. And at the center of these 4 things that are constantly happening within your organization, we need to be infusing team vision, reinforcing cultural habits, sharing and holding them accountable to the 90-day goals of the team, and setting and resetting clear expectations and a culture of high accountability, okay? When you have these 4 things working for you and you're infusing the things at the middle at every step, people are set up to be self-managing. So what does this look like practically, guys? Practically, here's what you need to do to set this up, okay? Number one, you need to extract the business from your brain onto paper. And I know this might sound so painful to some of my more visionary entrepreneurs. You're telling me to build processes? Well, maybe get some help with the process part, but at least you need to get what's in here onto paper, especially in the areas where you're looking to delegate and empower a new person who's going to be onboarding, right? You got to get your vision for those systems onto paper. So not just what they do, but why they do it, right? You always want to have the why behind the what represented in your system so your people know what the actual outcome is you want. And the reason for that is they may find ways to change the process and optimize the process, but the changes have to always be in line with the why. They always have to be in line with the why behind the what of why you do things a certain way. And if the change actually supports that why, then you celebrate the change. If the change actually detracts from the why, you have it documented and you can show them why that change actually doesn't achieve the outcome you're looking to create. And so I want to encourage you guys, if you feel overwhelmed with the idea of documenting your processes, is to really, what you really need to do is focus on the essential processes your new hire will need right away and what is going to free up your time first. That is what you need to focus on because that's going to drive the most growth. And then from there, you can, within that process, map the needed steps to achieve your vision without you and assign accountability for each step to the right team member. This is key, guys. And I know this seems so basic, but so many, common sense is not common practice. And so many business owners go way too long without doing this simple step. Once we've got the business out of your head and onto paper, especially for that new person, we need to put together what I call an on all cylinders onboarding plan. And this is essentially, guys, where you're going to spell out the first 4 weeks of this new hire's onboarding. And really do it in checklist format. Exactly what do they need to do to get onboarded and win here? And we actually have a template document we'll give you guys for this as well. And we help our clients build this all the time. But the big thing to notice here, guys, is every step in your onboarding process, again, should be infusing this culture and this vision and over communicating clarity and expectations. Oftentimes we have to say things 7 times for people to hear it the first time. And so as owners, we sometimes get frustrated because we're like, well, I already told you that, or maybe I told you that twice and they didn't remember, they didn't get it. And that's because we haven't reached that 7 times mark. Okay. So you really need to make sure this is baked into your onboarding plan. And also make sure within the onboarding plan that the needed resources and processes are within reach, meaning it's easy for them to access them and fire on all cylinders without constantly asking you questions. Okay. And this is very important in that meeting part to keep tight feedback loops in the beginning, meaning you're having more regular, more frequent check-ins, and you're able to very quickly course correct if there's any performance issues, or course correct if there's areas where they don't know what they don't know. Okay. So all that said, guys, the last piece of the self-managing team systems is using leadership tools versus micromanaging. And this is really key because so many owners I know, when little mistakes are made or little things happen, this is where they leap in and start to micromanage or do it for their team instead. And you can't do this if you want a self-managing team. It'll sabotage that culture. So instead, you've got to use leadership tools to set them up to be self-managing. So a couple ideas on what this looks like. Number one is making sure that on a quarterly or at least monthly basis, you are setting with your team SMART goals, right? And clearly defining for them, the 2 or 3 things that are most important for them to get done in the next 90 days and the next 30 days, making sure they're specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely, right? That's the SMART acronym. The thing is, most owners are not even that great at doing this for themselves, but you need to do it for your team. It's critical that you do it for your team and help them make sure the goals are SMART. You also need for each team member clear weekly measurables for them to hit. Guys, nothing is more clear than a number, okay? And if there is an easily trackable number that they can strive towards every single week, they're going to feel so much more empowered to win. A players want to put points on the scoreboard, guys, and this is what this does for them. The third thing I recommend you guys have as far as leadership tools is what we call a PDP in-house. This is a personal development plan, okay? So do you have a way to help your A-player employees actually become better at what they do? Do you have mentors? Can you buy them a course? Can you invest in their development? Can you give them a book? What is their personal development plan? Because I'm just telling you right now, A players will eat this stuff up. You will build respect and loyalty from them, and they will become better at their job because you were intentional to develop them and optimize their performance, okay? And the last thing that we recommend as far as a leadership tool is holding what we call perfect team meetings. This is critical. Meetings not only infuse culture and build connection, but they are really a major driver of accountability and making sure that as issues arise, those issues are solved in a team environment, and those issues have an owner when they leave. So people can leave owning the key issues in the business instead of you. And again, we'll give you guys some templates and resources to help you guys hold those meetings the right way. Okay. So guys, that really is the A player hiring system. In summary, again, we have, first of all, a CEO strategic plan that's clear and you're able to lead your team towards. Number two, you have an A player hiring funnel that consistently allows you to attract A player talent and hire them the right way. And number three, you have self-managing team systems set up to make sure that they can manage and oversee the processes in your business that are critical. They have a clear onboarding plan to fire on all cylinders, and you're using leadership tools to set them up to win and be self-managing. And really, guys, what we found is when you have a weaponized vision that stirs the heart, a simplified business model others can follow, a proven hiring process, documented processes to empower those people, and a CEO showing up powerfully to lead, assembling a self-managing team of A players is all but guaranteed. You just got to have all the elements in the recipe, and the cake will come out of the oven tasting good. Okay, that's how it works. You got to have all the ingredients. So I want to give one last illustration of this, talking about my client, Stacey. Stacey's team was not aligned to hit their goals, forcing him to play micromanager. And a self-managing team systems, the systems we implemented allowed him to grow his business by 40% that year, which is really incredible. They had been stagnant prior to that. And he said it this way. He said, working with Richard gave us vision clarity, organizational strategy, role clarity, and goal setting. We became more focused as a team and grew our business by 40% that year. What a cool illustration of the power of self-managing teams. So guys, as we wrap, I want to just encourage you to take a minute and imagine this kind of business. Imagine a business where you are free to do what you love, showing up powerfully as a CEO daily, leading a winning team you trust, and making an impact and a profit. And my friend, that really is possible for you, because that's what we call the Unleashed CEO lifestyle. And learning how to hire and retain A players is the key that unlocks the door for all of that. And so I just want to end today by saying, guys, as I mentioned, we've compiled an incredible resource list of some of our best-in-class resources that are typically client-only. One of those documents is the Team IV, a big part of the CEO strategic plan, the success profile document, our in-house hiring workflow, and the sample onboarding plan I discussed. And we'll be getting you guys that link out if you registered as a VIP via email. We might even drop it in the chat here shortly. And so I just want to encourage you guys with that, and end just by saying what I said at the beginning, which is I want to make an invitation. If you feel stirred and you're like, Richard, I don't want to do this on my own. I want a team to come alongside of me and help me with this, help me make that first A player hire, get those processes out of my head, and assemble a CEO strategic plan to bring it all together. Then my questions for you, man, are you ready to go from self-employed to Unleashed CEO? And would you like a faster path to install these keys that keeps you in your zone of genius? And lastly, are you interested in partnering with me and my team to scale with systems and the right team and regain your time freedom? And if so, I want to invite you to book a call with our team. This is a no obligation call where we'll get clear on the exact plan you need to scale your business to the next level. And if you'd like, you can go to go.unleashed.academy/apply and book that call, as well as view some of our case studies.